Hey everyone, I'm Armor Gaming, welcome back to my channel and welcome to Monster Analysis. Up for analysis today is Metalisha, the real wild child. She left home at a young age to join a gang of bikers led by Radar. She was a savage biker, always screaming and getting into fights. When she heard that in a metal band she could actually get paid for her screaming, she didn't hesitate and she joined Metalhead immediately. And so here we have Metalisha, the newest and latest fire legendary monster. That's right, I said fire legendary monster. To me, she looks kind of like she could be in the dark elements. But with that said, as of the time recording this video, there's a total of 31 fire legendary monsters. And she's even in the Underworld book, and currently there's 38 legendary monsters in the Underworld book. And then of course, obviously, she's in the female book, which currently consists of 41 legendary monsters. And then lastly, she's also in the Evil Legions book, which is currently home to 57 legendary monsters. And so with that said, let's analyze her stats. She has a power of 31,201, which is one of the lowest powers for a fire monster. Fire monsters, they tend to be attackers, and with a power of 3201, this is actually the second weakest power. That's right, she's in 30th place. She's only stronger than Fire Liquin. And then as for her life, it's also not that impressive. 25,334, this puts her tied for 21st place along with monsters like Triron and Lord Moltis. So considering there's only 31 legendary fire monsters, once again, not a very high life, also a very poor power. But all of that doesn't matter when we take a look at her speed. 3542, 3542, this is the highest speed of all the fire legendary monsters. And actually, when we take into consideration every single legendary monster in the game, there's currently 288 legendary monsters. This is tied for the 5th highest speed. That's right, she's tied with monsters like Cupid, Pandaclos, Lostigos, and Jabeline. And let's be honest, those monsters I just mentioned, they're nothing too spectacular. I mean, Jabeline, I do rage about Jabeline because she's the only dark monster faster than Krampus, and Jabeline is also faster than Jazzastar, so realistically, given the same level runes, Jabeline is the only one that can immobilize them, so I do like Jabeline. But as for Lostigos, Pandaclos, and Cupid, there's nothing really too special about them. So having Metalisha that has this amazing speed, 3542, is incredible. The only monsters faster than Metalisha are Mercurius, Cassia, Gretchen, and Lau Lau. And so behold one of the fastest monsters in the Monster Legends kingdom, just a truly incredible speed. It doesn't matter that her power stat isn't amazing, her life stat isn't that amazing, the fact that this speed is this incredible, I mean come on, even considering the newer Deny monsters, they tend to have a speed of 3498. She just completely obliterates them. It can be a Baba Yaga on defense, a Cassandra on defense, they can be running out speed runes. If you have the same level of speed runes, you're gonna easily outspeed them. And then lastly, her trait is Hardened. All status effects have a 20% less accuracy against it. And Metalisha is one of those cases where I think, considering the skills you're gonna see she has, it would have been better if she was immune to possession, because she has actually skills that can remove possession. But hey, you know what I say about Hardened? I love it, considering you can get hacked, you can get corrupt, you can get mega stun, you can get regular stun, you can get frozen. There's all these negative effects, stop time, there's all these negative effects in the game. In the future there'll probably be even more negative deny effects. That, I mean, having Hardened, it's just a really well-rounded trait. And so overall, I really can't complain much. Metalisha is just wow. And keep in mind, she's a fire monster. She's our very first, well, not our very first, I was gonna say our very first fire supportive monster, but she's like more than that, because we have had fire supportive monsters in the past, but you're gonna see that no one is on Metalisha's league, at least in my opinion. And so for example, like I never talk about the default skills, but just take a look at Stage Fright. Applies double damage to an ally, 13 stamina cost, no cooldown, and it's just a double damage buff skill. That's quite interesting to see for a default skill. But anyways, moving on to the ultimate skill, the ultimate of ultimate skills in my opinion, Queen's Encore removes all control status effects from allies, gives 1 extra turn to all allies, applies double damage to all allies. This ultimate attack is wow. Normally I'm not a fan of supportive ultimates because when I think of an ultimate skill, I'm like, this is the ultimate skill, right? It should change the course of the game. If you're losing, the ultimate skill has the power to just change the course of the game. And this skill does exactly that. It grants all of your monsters an immediate extra turn, they get double damage, and you remove any control statuses. What the heck is this? Like all of a sudden your monsters get to go and they deal double damage? That's insane. So remove control status, I'm not entirely sure what it means. Now just applying some common sense, I'm assuming this means it gets rid of all possession type status effects, whether a monster is hacked, corrupted, possessed, or rebooted. But knowing Social Point, you can never be too sure. Some people think it just means all deny effects in general, so stun, freeze, mega stun also. But I don't know, I don't think they refer to those as control statuses, so I'm pretty sure it just means possession type effects. And if that's the case, it's awesome because with the recent change to possession, given that your monsters can attack themselves, this ultimate attack would be kind of bad if all of a sudden you give double damage, your monsters are possessed, and now they attack themselves. So considering this skill can remove the possession, give them an extra turn, double damage, I think it's so fantastic. This is by far, it's hard to argue that there's a better ultimate skill for offensive purposes, and that's definitely saying a lot when we have monsters like Kaolig that can freeze and remove stamina. We have monsters that can apply Mirror on the whole team for 2 turns, but an immediate extra turn, double damage, removing control statuses, it's just so phenomenal. And with that said, let's move into skills group 1, starting things off with Mind Blown. Deals moderate special damage to all enemies, applies daze to all enemies, requires cooldown. 30 damage, special base to all of the enemy monsters, 28 stamina cost, only a 1 turn cooldown, and it dazes all of the enemy monsters. You may want to consider running this skill just because of the daze effect. Daze makes it so the enemy's accuracy is reduced by 25%, and the damage output of the enemy monster is also reduced by 25%. And you especially want this because keep in mind, you do not have a high life on this monster. If Metalisha gets hit by an enemy attacker that has a strength rune, 2 strength runes, she's as good as dead, so you definitely don't want to be single targeted. So Mind Blown can really help it, so even if you do get hit, well, it's 1/4 as effective, and at the same time their accuracy is reduced by 25%. So now the enemy AoE attacks are going to have a 65% accuracy, and single hits will have a 70% accuracy, so this can really help you out. And then we also have Find and Destroy. This applies taunt to an ally, and this skill costs 27 stamina, it has no cooldown so you can spam it as much as possible, and it applies taunt to one of your allies, and that taunt will only last for 1 turn. But once again, considering you have a low life, this could really help you out, especially if you're going to be running Metalisha with 3 speed runes, because then she's incredibly squishy. 1 hit from an enemy monster can seriously take her out, and so applying taunt to one of your allies, specifically a really tanky ally, this can be incredibly beneficial, and I definitely wouldn't count out running Find and Destroy even though it's skills group 1. And I really need to discuss the other skills before I can give you guys more in-depth reason on why you should maybe consider running this skill. And so with that said, moving on over to skills group 2, we have Stage on Fire. Deals moderate fire damage to all enemies, applies burn to all enemies, requires cooldown. 35 damage, 28 stamina, 1 turn cooldown, and it's a AoE burning. Burning will reduce the enemy's HP by 15% for the next 4 turns, so that's a grand total of 60%. I'm just amazed that these AoEs, they have a 1 turn cooldown, that's crazy. But yeah, considering Metalisha, she's not going to be running strength runes, she's not there to deal damage. When you have a monster like that, the best thing you can give them in terms of actually dealing damage is to give them a skill that applies a DOT. So something like Burning is great, because after she fulfills her main role, which is to support your allies, to support your team, then you still want to do something, so setting off an AoE Burning, this could really come in handy. So you may want to consider running this, or you may want to consider running the AoE Daze from skills group 1. And then next up in skills group 2, we have the phenomenal skill, Moth into Flame. Gives 1 extra turn to an ally and 50% stamina to an ally, deals low fire damage each turn to one ally, requires cooldown. So this skill only costs 15 stamina, it has a high 4 turn cooldown, and the reason it has a high turn cooldown is because it grants an immediate extra turn to one of your allies. It also recovers your stamina by 50%, which isn't that significant. It depends on how you build Metalisha, but for the most part it's not that significant. But the downside to this skill is that you give Ignition to your ally, and Ignition will reduce the HP of your ally by 20% for the next 2 turns, so 40% in the course of those 2 turns. And so it's solely because of this skill, Moth into Flame, that Metalisha can best be compared to Demise from the light category. However, Metalisha is like the Demise of the fire category. But then when we take a look at books, Metalisha is also in the female book, she's in the Underworld book, so you can make an argument that she's like a better Demise, simply because she's faster than Demise, and she can grant an ally an extra turn. Sure, there's a downside, sure your ally gets Ignition, but that doesn't really matter too much because in the majority of games, if you can go first, if you can get your attacker to go first, the game is as good as yours. The downside is, another downside actually, is that you don't grant double damage or 50 damage like Demise does, but it doesn't matter. It's an extra turn, so Metalisha specifically works best with monsters that can grant themselves a self boost. Someone like Shalinar who can give herself double damage, someone like Barbatos. Now of course keep in mind that if you do use Metalisha with monsters like Shalinar and Barbatos, well, when they get their extra turn, they're gonna get hit with Ignition, so that's minus 20% of their life, and then when they use their self extra turn skill, well, they're gonna get hit with Ignition again, and so in that short amount of time, they will lose that 40% of their life. But it doesn't matter because then they can eliminate the main enemy threat, or maybe all of the enemy threat. There's just so much you can do. But anyhow, an even better strategy is just to utilize Metalisha with monsters like Zyla and Voltic, maybe even Mercurius, because with Zyla and Voltic, those monsters can single-handedly wipe out the whole enemy team. Who cares if you lose 40% of your HP? It's not that significant, you know, because you're going to be wiping out the enemy. So I think when you're comparing Metalisha and Demise, yeah, Demise grants double damage, so she seriously works best with overall more attackers. But if we're just talking about Zyla and Voltic, I think Metalisha is just way better with them because she's faster. Come on, she's just faster. That's the main reason. Faster and gives an extra turn. And so Metalisha definitely has her pros and her cons when comparing her to Demise. Demise I think overall can work with more attackers, and that's specifically just because she grants them double damage, but then Metalisha, she's better just because she's faster. But then with Metalisha, you don't have to always give the extra turn to the attacker, you can give the extra turn to your deny monster. Because let's face it, there's no deny monster that has a speed of 3, 5, 4, 2. There's just no deny monster currently in the game that has that speed. So for example, if we take someone like Cabinfish, who's slower than most deny monsters, Cabinfish has 2 AoE deny skills. So now you'd essentially be able to run Cabinfish with 3 team speed runes, run Metalisha with 3 speed runes, have Metalisha go first, give the extra turn to Cabinfish, Cabinfish can do his AoE deny skill, then the enemy's all gonna go before the enemy Cabinfish, they're gonna be denied, and then when Cabinfish goes, he can do his other AoE deny skill. So for that reason, Metalisha is better. And so I can essentially go on forever just comparing those two. That would be a really great comparison series. Hopefully I can get streams working for that. But yeah, Moth into Flame, Metalisha, great speed, great skill. I just love it right now. And moving on, we have one more song. Resurrects one ally with 50% life, requires cooldown. 18 stamina cost, 3 turn cooldown. You resurrect an ally. So even if your monster dies because of that ignition, then the enemy monster attacks it, it doesn't matter. You can revive your fallen ally. You can revive your fallen comrade. How cool is that? Not only does she have an extra turn skill, she can also revive a dead soldier. That is awesome. On top of that, AoE burning, AoE daze, she can taunt, and once again more on that taunt. If you taunt one of your allies to make sure Metalisha stays alive, it doesn't matter that your ally dies because you can just bring them back. So that taunt skill, once again, it may definitely be worth running. It is so hard to actually think of a skill set that works for her because she has so many amazing skills. And speaking of amazing skills, let's talk about skills group 3, Puppet Master. Removes all control status effects from all allies, applies double damage to all allies, requires cooldown. So she has another supportive skill. It costs 27 stamina, has a 3 turn cooldown, you remove all control status effects, and all of your team gets double damage. And the one main downside Metalisha has with Puppet Master is that double damage, it only lasts for 1 turn as opposed to 2 turns like double damage typically tends to last. And so that's rather unfortunate because then you can't pull off combos where you stack a double damage and a triple damage and a 50% damage. But it's still fine, your whole team gets double damage, it's a pretty good skill. And if your allies were possessed, you would also get rid of that possession, so it's a great skill. At the same time, however, it really depends on the structure of your team. If you run Metalisha with 3 speed runes, and then you run an ally that has 3 team speed runes, and you have 1 attacker, your whole team doesn't really need double damage. They won't benefit too much from double damage. So if that's the kind of team you run, it may not be worth using Puppet Master. If you run a different team where you have 2 attackers, then by all means run Puppet Master because that way both of your attackers can benefit from it. But for the most part, I think most people tend to run a main deny monster, an attacker, and then your treachery monster. That's either a tank, it's a supportive monster, it's just someone to help out your team. So if that's the kind of team structure you run, I don't think Puppet Master is really needed, but again, it really depends on you and your playing style. The next skill we have is Enter Damage Man. Removes all control status effects and applies triple damage to an ally, requires cooldown. 17 stamina cost, 3 turn cooldown, you remove all control status effects and you apply triple damage. Sure, it only lasts for 1 turn, but I think this skill combined with maybe you have an ally that grants double damage for 2 turns, then you can pull off some really nice amazing combos. And so I would definitely consider running Enter Damage Man. You know, maybe you have a team where you have Metalisha go first, she gives triple damage to your attacker, and then you have Demise on your team also, and then Demise can give double damage in an extra turn, then your attacker would have double damage and triple damage. Or if you happen to have Samael, then it could be even better because you can use Metalisha to give triple damage to your attacker, then Samael can give 50% damage and increased accuracy, so they're not going to be missing. Then you do a strong AoE and you wipe out the enemy team. So with this specific one, Enter Damage Man, I think combos work out a lot better, just because your attacker gets a huge buff, depending if you can pair him up with the right ally. And with a skill like this, there's different ways to utilize Metalisha. Maybe you still run a deny monster, and you run Metalisha as a secondary supportive monster. I'll get more into that in a little bit. Let me just talk about Fiery Solo first. Fiery Solo deals heavy fire damage to one enemy, and it deals low fire damage each turn to one enemy, requires cooldown. So it's a fire based attack that deals 50 damage, costs 19 stamina, 2 turn cooldown, and that low fire damage, that's basically ignition. So you can give an ignition to an enemy team, which again, if you're running Metalisha with 3 speed runes, where she's not really there to deal damage in terms of the damage output she does from a single attack, well then it's better to just apply a DLT effect, so ignition can be pretty good. And so as you can see, she doesn't really have a bad skill, with the exception of maybe Siren Solo, which I didn't even discuss, but Mind Blown can AoE daze, Find and Destroy is a taunt skill which can help you stay alive, Stage on Fire is an AoE burning, Moth into Flame is your must-have skill, One More Song is another must-have skill, and then we have Puppet Master, which is an AoE double damage, which some people may utilize, Enter Damage Man a triple damage, and Fiery Solo a single ignition. All great skills. It's hard to say with the exception of Moth into Flame and One More Song. These are must-have, As for the next two skills, it really comes down to preference. Because you see, Mind Blown can help you stay alive, it can help your team stay alive, whereas Stage on Fire, Fiery Solo, those two skills can help you kill an enemy monster, which of course helps your team stay alive. Enter Damage Band, this helps your attacker to kill the enemy monsters, and if you kill the enemy monsters, this of course helps your team stay alive, and more importantly helps your team be victorious. So many different skill sets, many different possibilities. Let me once again talk about running Metalisha with 3 speedruns. The typical strategy is going to be to use Moth into Flame on your main attacker, and you want to eliminate the enemy monster, eliminate the main enemy threat. It's as simple as that. You could realistically run your attacker with 3 strength runes, the highest level strength runes you have, and hopefully that's enough to wipe out a single enemy monster, or maybe all 3 of the enemy monsters, or just come close to killing them, you know. Another possibility is just to run your attacker with 2 strength runes and a speed rune, run a third monster with 3 team speed runes, and use Moth into Flame into your attacker, have your attacker wipe out the enemy deny monster, which is the monster that's also going to have 3 speed runes, but because Metalisha has a higher base speed than most monsters, typically you're going to go first, and if you eliminate the enemy deny monster, then your attacker should hopefully be going next, and then your attacker is free to attack the enemy attacker, or the enemy treachery monster, it doesn't matter, but hopefully you can also take out the enemy attacker, and then it's a 3 against 1 battle. The third monster probably has team speed or something, and they won't be able to kill you. So it's an easy 3-coin victory as far as for wars or for PvP. Well, in PvP it's not even about coins. If you win with one monster, you win. So that's all that matters. So that's one strategy you can utilize. And then of course, as I mentioned earlier, you don't even have to do this with an attacker. Instead, you can run your attacker just as you normally would. 2 strength runes and a speed, or 2 strength runes and a team speed. And instead have your deny monster with 3 team speed, run Metalisha. You have Metalisha use Moth into Flame into your deny monster, whether it be a Krampus, a Cabin Fish, it can even be a General Thetis, it doesn't matter. Run Metalisha with 3 speed runes, Moth into Flame into your deny monster running 3 team speed, have them deny the enemy, and then your attacker is free to attack. Then Metalisha is going to get a turn in, and then you can do Stage on Fire to AoE Burn, Mind Blown to AoE Daze, maybe you can single Ignition, it really depends on what you're running. Maybe you can do Enter Damage Band to triple damage your attacker, and that'll especially work with a monster that has 2 deny skills, someone like Kihaku. He should be really great, him and Metalisha. Oh my gosh, that would be fantastic because Kihaku can freeze and possess. So I think those 2 monsters would be a deadly combination. Just Kihaku 3 team speed, Metalisha. Oh my gosh, seriously, Metalisha 3. Oh, that's insane. I just thought of that right now. But yeah, that would be an epic team combination. And seriously, the amount of combos are just endless. If you saw the video I did with Cloud and Demise, I used my Demise to give Cloud an extra turn, because Cloud also has an extra turn scale that also grants precision. You could even do that with Metalisha if you wanted to, just because now that your attacker has increased accuracy, he's not going to be missing, so that could also work. There's just so many different possibilities. And if you do run Cloud, then Cloud can use self-taunt, which will protect your Metalisha from dying. There's just so many combos when you have a monster that is this fast and can grant an immediate extra turn to one of your allies. But I think I'm focusing too much on Moth into Flame. It's a truly phenomenal skill, especially combined with her speed, but there's actually a different way you can run Metalisha, and that would be to run her with a single speed rune, a life rune, and a team speed rune, or run her with 2 speed runes and a life rune. And the only reason I'm recommending a life rune with Metalisha and 2 speed or a speed and a team speed is because you actually want her to go second. You still want to have a deny monster with 3 speed runes, so think Krampus, think General Thetis, just think someone that can immobilize the enemy, and what you want is you want Metalisha to go next. That way she can do Moth into Flame into your attacker. And the reason I'm thinking about that strategy is just because of one more song. Metalisha, aside from having the extra turn skill, don't forget she can resurrect. And the main problem with Metalisha and the resurrection skill is her incredibly low life of 25k. It is so easy to take her out with one shot. So because of that, another strategy you might want to utilize, and this really depends on your league, your runes and everything, is just to have her have a life rune. That way, in case one of your allies dies, it probably won't be Metalisha, in which case you can resurrect your ally, you can still utilize Moth into Flame. Mind Blown would be incredibly beneficial with that skill set because that increases your chances of Metalisha not dying, and then you're so great for support, you're so great for DLT damage. So just consider it. I imagine most people aren't going to need to do that, myself included. I'll probably give her 3 speed runes, my best speed runes, but for some people, that's another option. Just have your deny monster deny the enemy, have her go with a life rune and 2 speed or speed and a team speed, because with the speed and a team speed, you can afford to give your attacker 2 strength and a team speed, or just 3 strength, and they'll still get a turn in before the enemy monsters go. So that's just one option. So the choice is up to you guys. I really want to hear back from all of you guys. What do you guys think about Metalisha? What skill sets would you run? Because like I said, I can only truly recommend Moth into Flame and one more song. As for that, I'm still undecided. I probably won't have much of a problem considering I won't get her right away, but once she's released, what are you guys going to be doing with her? Are you going to run Mind Blown for that AoE daze? Are you going to run Find and Destroy to help protect your Metalisha so she can stay alive? And even if one of your other allies dies, you resurrect them with one more song? Or are you just going to go for that DOT damage, that AoE burning? Are you going to go for that ignition? I think maybe AoE burning might not be needed as much, considering you do give your attacker one turn in, your attacker wipes out maybe one enemy monster. By the time it's Metalisha's turn again, I think at that point you don't really need an AoE burn. At that point you can single ignition, or at that point you can just triple damage your attacker for the next turn, or at that point you can taunt to protect your attacker, to protect your Metalisha. You know what, I can actually talk more about her. One really good combo would be just to use Metalisha with a really strong tank. So use that taunt skill to go to the tank, and maybe your tank even has a mirror skill. That way when it gets attacked, it just reflects it back at the enemy. Maybe your tank is someone like Cloud. That way he has a self taunt skill also. He has a shield skill. Maybe you can use Metalisha with someone like Keythor, someone that can grant your whole team 100% life shield. That way they even take less damage from that ignition. There's just so many. Oh my gosh, I love this monster. But yeah, I think that's enough for me. Run it with 3 speed. Run it with that life, that team speed, and that speed if you want to utilize her as more of a supportive monster, someone who can resurrect and still grant an extra turn to an ally while being able to apply DOTs, while being able to buff with triple damage. I am so looking forward to getting this monster, and I really want to hear from all of you guys. How would you run Metalisha? What runes would you give her? What would be your ideal team with Metalisha? Can you think of something better besides the obvious Voltic, Zyla, Metalisha? Just whatever thoughts are going on through your guys' mind, please let me know in the comments below. And with that being said, best of luck to all of you on your Monster Legends adventures. Like always, remember to dream big and pursue your passions.